I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that they had spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love, and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can be rearranged. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? There could hardly be a more fitting poem to begin today's farewell. The dash between two dates represents every choice we make, every kindness we offer, every challenge we overcome, every life we touch, and every memory we leave behind. For Jan, that dash was filled to overflowing. It was filled with classrooms of eager young minds, with school playgrounds where countless footsteps were taken as she watched over and encouraged children. It was filled with music and community service, with sport and friendship, with family, laughter, and unwavering love. Most of all, it was a life spent in service to others. Today, we gather to honour that life. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janice Witherspoon, and on behalf of Brendan and the Parkside team, it is both my privilege and my honour to lead this celebration of the life of Janice Tolland, our beloved Jan, who was known so affectionately by her family as Janma and later Great Janma. On behalf of Jan's loving family, I welcome you all very warmly. I especially welcome her children and their partners, Michael and Rosemary, Anne and Kevin, Catherine and Scott, Jodie and Michael, her 8 much-loved grandchildren, her treasured great-grandson Hunter, her extended family, her lifelong friends, former colleagues, neighbours, members of the Burnie community, and all whose lives were enriched so greatly by knowing Jan. To those joining us via live stream today, although distance prevents you from being with us in person, you are very much part of this farewell. Thank you for joining Jan's family as we celebrate a truly remarkable woman. The sadness in the chapel this afternoon is palpable. It speaks not simply of a life that has ended at the wonderful age of 90, but of a woman whose love, guidance, wisdom, and quiet strength became woven into the lives of so many people. When someone has lived as generously as Jan, grief is never measured by age. It is measured by love. And by that measure, she was deeply loved. While today is naturally a day of farewell, it is also a day of profound gratitude. We give thanks for 90 years of a life well lived with purpose, a life of loyalty, a life of determination, a life of service, a life that quietly made our community a better place. There is a small personal connection that makes it especially meaningful for me to stand here today. Jan devoted much of her teaching career to Montello Primary School. Years later, I had the privilege of serving as principal of that same wonderful school. Although our time there was separated by many years, I have always known of Jan's outstanding reputation as an educator and as a colleague. In a very real sense, I followed in her footsteps. And while I was doing that, her daughter Catherine was doing it also, walking in her mother's footsteps. It's quite amazing, really. As I have reflected on Jan's life over these past few days, that image of footsteps has stayed with me. Think of the thousands upon thousands of footsteps she took throughout her lifetime. Walking the corridors of Montello, walking through playgrounds, encouraging children to play, learn, and include one another. Walking into classrooms each morning, ready to make a difference. Walking into band rehearsals, walking onto hockey fields and tennis courts, walking through the doors of the Bernier Stedford year after year, walking beside her own children through seasons of great joy and through unimaginable heartbreak after the sudden loss of their beloved husband and Father John. Those footsteps may seem ordinary, but when added together over 90 years, they become an extraordinary legacy. Jan never sought recognition. She simply believed that if something was worth doing, it was worth giving 110%. That philosophy shaped not only her life, but the lives of countless others. Only a few short months ago, Jan still had important dates circled on her calendar. Her 90th birthday, the wedding of a beloved grandson, and great Janmar's precious great-grandson, Hunter's birth. With typical determination, she made it to each one. How very fitting that even in the closing chapter of her life, family remained at the very centre of everything. Today we will hear many stories of a devoted mother and Janmar, a gifted teacher, a loyal friend, a talented musician, a fierce North Melbourne supporter, a proud member of the Burnie community, and above all, a woman whose kindness, dedication, and quiet strength touched generations of people. No single person can ever tell the whole story of Jan's life. That story belongs to every one of you, every person gathered here today. It lives in your memories, in your conversations, and in your hearts. To begin sharing that story today, I now invite Jan's grandsons, Jackson and Connor, to come forward and deliver the eulogy that they have lovingly prepared. Thank you, Jackson and Connor.
Janmar was born in Launceston on the 21st of March 1936, the third child of Neil and Sybil Lloyd of Ulverston. Jan had 4 siblings, 2 older ones, Barry and Marlene, and 2 younger ones, Josephine and Diane. Her father was very hardworking. He was a bricklayer and also worked shifts at the local flax mill, so was often late home. In later years, Jan, Josephine and Diane became known to the family as the 3 Daisies, and spent many hours enjoying each other's company, sharing quiet companionship, supporting each other during tough times, and travelling together. Jan grew up during World War II. The family lived at Clara Street in Ulverston, which, at the time, was not connected to power. Light was provided by Tilly lamps, and cooking was done on a fuel stove. Water for bathing and laundry was heated in a copper. There was an outside toilet, and Jan was always terrified that the nightman might turn up while she was using it. Jan began her education at Ulverston Primary and then Devonport High School, after which she left home to commence her teacher training in Hobart. While at uni, she appeared in the Uni Review, played hockey, joined a square dancing group, and worked long hours at the Edgel's fish factory and picking beans during the holidays. Following graduation, her first teaching job was at Ulverston Primary School. She had 40 children in the class, and she was expected to teach the children to write in copperplate using ink within a fortnight of the commencement of the term. Jan transferred from Ulverston to Montello Primary in 1956, and then briefly to Wynyard Primary before transferring back to Montello for the remainder of her career, where she co-authored a book with Aileen Jones to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Montello Primary. During this time, she returned to study and graduated a Bachelor of Education in 1988 before finally retiring from teaching in 1996. Jan was involved in the community and sporting activities throughout her entire life. Early in her teaching career, she performed in the Ulverston Repertory Society productions, and in 1959 became the leader of the marching girls team, the Boney Gardettes. In 1993, Jan joined the Boney Concert Band's adult learners group as a percussionist, and later joined the junior learners band to gain more rehearsal time. Jan joined the Boney Stedford Committee in 1996, serving as vice president for several years, and was elected president in 2002, a position she held for 20 years. She was awarded life membership in 2012. In 2025, she featured in the book Boney Creatives, which was published to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Boney Arts Council. Janmar also received the Lifetime Commitment Award, which honours individuals with at least 25 years of sustained volunteer commitment and recognises Tasmanians who have devoted a major portion of their lives to community change. Janmar played hockey and tennis for many years. She was a life member of the Cooey Tennis Club and served as secretary of the Northwest Tennis Association and held positions within the Boney District Hockey Association. As well as playing sport, Janmar was an avid watcher of sport on TV, particularly if North Melbourne were winning. However, if the team was losing, she would quickly switch channels and find something more interesting to watch. Jan's first date with her beloved John was to the movies to see The Tea House of the August Moon, starring Marlon Brando. Jan was not impressed because she had already seen the movie the week before. Nevertheless, the relationship survived that first date, and they were married on the 2nd of September 1961. Janmar described the wedding day as chaotic. The flowers, cake, and photographer were all late, and she tripped up the steps of the church because she wasn't wearing her glasses. However, John said that it was the prettiest wedding he had ever seen. Following their marriage, Jan and John settled in Boney, where John built the house at 55 Paraka Street that Janmar continued to live in until she recently became a resident at Yarrandoo. Michael was born in 1962, Anne in 1964, Catherine in 1966, and Jodie in 1968. The young family led a busy life, with all being heavily involved in many activities, including hockey, tennis, cricket, badminton, football, and dancing. Sadly, John passed away in 1980, aged just 45, and Jan was left to raise 4 young children by herself. To say she did this with love, pride, courage, and stoicism is exemplified by the words that her children have provided for this eulogy.
From Michael. As I reflect on your life and our lives, realization strikes me on how wonderful you were. Both you and Dad had very active sporting lives, which we children followed, learning the fine art of playing from you both. When it was our turn to pursue sport and activities, you were always available and supportive. You were clever, loyal, committed, and rarely judgmental. You didn't chase accolades, but you received them anyway. Your grandchildren and great-grandchildren were a source of pride that was obvious when you spoke of them. You will be missed. Love, Michael. From Anne. Janmar was known as Daisy 1 within the family. Josephine as Daisy 2 and Diane Daisy 3. I spent one whole visit to Tasmania driving the trio around and coined the phrase, driving Miss Daisies. The 3 sisters wholeheartedly embraced their new nicknames. Mum spent many, many hours creating beautiful albums for her children and grandchildren. Her scrapping skills certainly came to the fore. She was also a perfectionist, so if things were not going smoothly, then the Lloyd temper would show itself. Mum made many of our outfits growing up, not always appreciated by us girls, but the flower power jumpsuits went down a treat. Mum also made all 4 of Jodie's bridesmaids' dresses. This was a feat even more impressive as 2 bridesmaids lived in WA, one in Queensland and the other in Tasmania. She was sewing hems right up to the wedding ceremony, and they were all beautiful. Sadly, I did not inherit Mum's brains, her sewing or musical skills, but rather her dislike of cooking. Although, thanks to her, my sausage rolls are excellent. Kevin would look forward to Mum's visits, as he would always ask her to make Cornish pasties and then send the photos to the other sons-in-laws as proof he was the favourite. Forever in our hearts, Mum. From Catherine. One Sunday morning at Sunday school, the Sunday school teacher announced that today was an exciting day because we were welcoming a VIP, a very special visitor. I jumped up and proudly announced that it was my mum, and she was wearing her new blue pantsuit. There were a few giggles when the teacher informed everyone that it was actually the minister. I obviously knew back then how special and important Mum was. Thank you, Mum, for all the little things that became big things that showed you how much you loved us, for welcoming Scott and loving the family we made, for welcoming our friends into our home, for pushing Connor and Kennedy in the pram around the hockey ground so that I could keep playing because you had to retire well before you wanted to and you wanted me to keep going, for sewing Power Ranger outfits like a boss, for encouraging me and helping me to go to uni to become a teacher, just like you. For the late night pickups, for the school trips and hockey trips we probably couldn't afford, and for every car ride to sport. I'm really not sure how you managed it, but you did. We will be forever grateful. Love you, Mum. From Jodie. Mum's love of sport was a passion that she shared with all of us. I grew up on the sidelines of a hockey field in winter and a tennis court in summer, impatiently watching and waiting for the time when I was big enough to finally join in. I was so excited for that first ever hockey game, with Coach Mum yelling instructions from the sidelines. Unfortunately, my excitement was short-lived when an opposition player mistook my head for the ball. Face down on the ground, I can still hear Mum yelling, "Get up and rub it." Followed shortly thereafter by, "Oh, she's bleeding." A quick trip to the emergency room ensued, where they knew us by name, and after a number of questions from the doctor, such as, "What day is it?" he boldly pronounced that Mum didn't have a concussion. She had answered all the questions correctly. However, he had no clue if I did. This gave us many giggles over the years. Mum was everything, all the good things, kind, loving, intelligent, creative, funny, understanding, and beautiful. There are not enough words. She's been an amazing mum, the absolute best. She's been an amazing mum, the absolute best. A fabulous mother-in-law to Michael and a much-loved Gemma. And a much-loved Gemma to Joshua and Riley. I miss telling her "love you" at the end of a conversation, but what I will miss the most is hearing "I love you too" being said back. Love you, Mum.
After safely guiding her children through their adolescence, they went on to marry, and Janma gained 3 cherished son-in-laws, Kevin, Scott, and Michael, and later a daughter-in-law, Rosemary. Her 8 grandchildren were a source of much joy and pride for Jan in her later years, and she spent many hours sewing them beautiful clothes and supporting them in their many endeavours. More recently, she welcomed her great-grandson, Hunter, and was able to spend some time getting to know him before her final illness. Mum, Janma, great Janma, sister, auntie, as we farewell you today, we salute you. And thank you for your love, your guidance, your loyalty, and your dedication to our family. May you rest in peace.
Well done, Jackson and Connor. That relationship between any grandparent and their grandchildren is so deep, and I'm sure she'd be very, very proud of you both. There is an old saying that a person's true wealth is found not in what they leave behind, but in the lives they have touched. If that is true, then Jan was one of the wealthiest people we could ever hope to know. Those stories that we've just heard from her family remind us of the woman they loved so dearly. But Jan's life reached far beyond her own family circle. She influenced generations of children through her teaching. She encouraged young performers through the Eisteddfod. She inspired musicians. She served alongside colleagues who became lifelong friends. She quietly became part of the very fabric of the Burnie community. When a life has been lived so generously, it's only fitting that others should also have the opportunity to say thank you. And I am honoured to present the first 2 tributes from her sisters, Daisy 2 and Daisy 3. The first sister, Josephine, known as Daisy 2, has written, "Always the older, wiser sister, ready to help me as much as she could over the years with children and work commitments. I was always in awe of her competence and patience in teaching me to crochet and knit properly. Mrs. Ockenden would keep Jan in after school. She was never really sure why. It always meant that we were late home, and we would tell our mother that the chain came off our bike. Jan had to tow me on the back of the bike, which did not help, of course. I managed to fall off a couple of times too. She was a fabulous sewer, and Mum bought a machine so that Jan could sew our dresses for the annual church anniversary, also our ball dresses with matching mittens. We went to Mrs. Brown's for lessons. We loved doing swimming at West Ulverston, but Jan was always a bit nervous about getting sandy and sunburnt. She hated playing tennis with me, as I was not very good. I was much better at hockey. Jan played goalie for quite a few years. She enjoyed being in the Repertory Society and also in the uni reviews. She had a job picking beans in the uni holidays. It was slow and hot, and we did not make much profit. And she always hated tinned fish, having done a stint at the Edgels factory. Jan spent a lot of time with Dad. She was a bit of a mate for him. She would help him on weekends. I loved the fact that she was musical and enjoyed hearing all about her concerts if I could not attend them. We spent a lot of Sundays chatting on the phone, mainly about craft, school hassles, patterns, family. There was always a lot of laughter and a lot of tears. A favourite saying of hers to me was, "Stay strong." We talked for hours, as sisters do. We did enjoy similar interests that made a lot of chat inevitable. Beautiful memories from Josephine. And from Daisy 3, Sister Diane. Jan was nearly 10 by the time I was born, and she was off to university at 17. She was already teaching grade 3 when I was in grade 5. We spoke a lot over our later years, and both of us reflect that we don't have much memory of the first decades, but we certainly made up for it, becoming very close. My fondest and simplest memories are days where Jan and I would sit in her lounge, reading or watching TV, simply in quiet companionship. As the years went on, I'll confess that many occasion was interspersed with naps by either one of us or both at the same time. Midsummer Murders is quite the slumber-inducing show. Jo and I were her bridesmaids. I was 15 and Jo was 20. Jan looked beautiful and John told everyone that she was the prettiest bride he had ever seen. Jan was told by the pastor not to be late, and while she did not like to break the rules when the flowers had not arrived on time, she simply refused to put her dress on until they'd made an appearance. I can still remember her sitting stubbornly on the sofa in her underwear. Suffice it to say, we were late. Our elder sister Marlene and Jan, only 2 years apart in age, were close when they were younger. They would go to square dancing and junior farmer balls together, dressed smartly in their ballerina-length dresses, often sewn by Jan prior to the event. Daisy 1, 2 and 3 did a great deal together, birthdays in particular. Jo, Daisy 2, took Jan to New Zealand for her 80th birthday, only something 2 Lloyd sisters would do. Strong, stubborn, independent women still making their way through the world regardless of age. Another memory was the 3 Daisies road tripping around Tasmania. While I enjoyed tootling around the countryside, Jan and Jo took turns in asking, "Are we there yet?" either out loud or through quiet submission. We stayed in various accommodation, including a storage container disguised as an Airbnb on the outskirts of Scottsdale, to arriving at Megan's house to being greeted by 2 furry friends. I think there was a collective sigh of relief from Jan when we returned to the comfort of her home. Jan has had a great deal of achievements that most of you are hearing or already knew about, but I know that the greatest one was her 4 children, who have made her so proud, growing up to be amazing adults with beautiful families of their own and still growing. Jan was many things, but overly affectionate was not one of them, and perhaps she didn't say as often as she could how much her children meant to her, or at least she didn't say it to them. However, as her sister, I can attest that she was so very proud and loved all of them so deeply. In the last years, Jan and I would get together for lunch every week, becoming regulars at the Furnace Hotel and then progressing on to other places around the town. She had a wonderful life and lived every inch of it, and I will miss her every day. We always tried to be there for each other. Chance made us sisters. Hearts made us friends. What a beautiful, beautiful thing to say. There have been several tributes on Facebook that I'm sure you have read. If you haven't, there is a beautiful memory or accolade from the Mayor, Teenie Brumby, and I would just like to share that on her behalf before we move on. Teeny wrote, it was with great sadness that I learned this morning of the passing of Mrs. Jan Tolland. Like so many in our community, I'll remember Mrs. Tolland as a dedicated teacher at Montello Primary School. Generations of young people were blessed by her patience, kindness, and unwavering commitment to helping children learn and grow. Long after lessons finished, the impact she had on countless lives continued. Beyond the classroom, Jan devoted more than 25 years to the Burnie of Stedford, including 2 decades as president. Through her leadership, encouragement, and quiet dedication, she helped nurture the talents and confidence of thousands of performers, ensuring the arts continued to flourish in our community. Jan was one of those remarkable people who invested her life in others. Whether through education or the performing arts, she leaves behind a legacy measured not by accolades, but by the many lives she enriched. On behalf of our community, I extend my sincere condolences to Jan's family, friends, former students, colleagues, and the Burnie of Stedford family. Thank you, Jan, for a life so generously lived in service to others. May you rest in peace, knowing your contribution to Burnie will not be forgotten. So as we've heard, many memories are told through words. Others are remembered through photographs. Photographs have a remarkable way of slowing time. They capture moments that seemed quite ordinary when they happened, yet years later become some of our most treasured possessions. As these images appear on the screen now, you may see Jan as a little girl, a young teacher beginning her career, a devoted wife, a loving mother, proud Janma, all of those things that we've heard about this morning. You may even see yourself somewhere among these memories, and perhaps a smile will appear before the tears. Perhaps a memory long forgotten will suddenly return. As we watch together now, may we celebrate not simply the photographs themselves, but that remarkable life that they represent. This is Jan's story, a story filled with purpose, a life filled with love, a life whose footsteps have left an enduring path for others to follow.
There are places I remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places had their moments with lovers and friends. I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compared with you. And these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. Though I know I'll never lose affection
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burden be, and I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can't stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulder. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can be.
Beautiful, beautiful memories to cherish always. As we come to the close of our time here in the chapel, we've heard stories, we've shared memories, smiled at familiar moments, and yes, shed some tears. And every one of those tears has been earned. They have been earned by a woman who spent 90 years quietly investing herself in other people. When we first gathered this afternoon, we reflected on the dash, that simple line between two dates. For Jan, it simply is more than just a dash. We've heard it all now. It tells the story of a life lived with remarkable purpose. She never measured success by titles or recognition. She measured it by commitment, by loyalty, by showing up, and by giving her very best. If Jan agreed to do something, she did it wholeheartedly. If she joined a club, she gave 110%. If she saw a child needing encouragement, she gave it. If family needed her, she was there. If the Burnie community needed another pair of willing hands, somehow Jan found time. That was simply who she was. She believed in people. And you know, long before inclusion became an accepted part of education, Jan Tolland was already advocating for every child to have the opportunity to learn alongside their peers. Her university studies reflected what her heart had always known, that every child deserved to belong. How fitting that that belief became the foundation of both her teaching career and her life. She didn't just teach lessons. She taught children to believe in themselves. She didn't simply organise community events. She built confidence. She didn't just play music. She helped create harmony wherever she went. And she wasn't just raising 4 children after John's sudden passing. She was quietly showing them every single day what resilience, courage, and unconditional love looked like. That may well be her greatest lesson of all. Before we leave the chapel, I'd also like to acknowledge on behalf of Jan's family the kindness, compassion and care shown to Jan by the wonderful staff at Yarrandoo Care Centre during the final chapter of her life. Thank you for the dignity with which you cared for her and the support you gave to those who loved her. Jan's family will always be grateful. And now it is time for us to accompany Jan on the final journey of her earthly life. You are warmly invited to travel with her to the Burnie Lawn Cemetery, where she'll be laid to rest with her beloved husband, John. After so many years apart, they will once again rest together. If you would prefer, you may remain here and await the family's return before sharing refreshments and continuing your stories and memories that have filled this afternoon. However you spend the next part of today, I encourage you to do one thing. Carry something of Jan with you. Perhaps her loyalty, perhaps her determination, perhaps her generosity, perhaps her belief that every person deserves to be encouraged, or perhaps simply her quiet example of a life lived not for herself, but for others. Because although Jan's footsteps have now come to rest, the path she created will continue to be walked for generations to come. And what a wonderful legacy that is. Ladies and gentlemen, would you all please stand?
So join in the chorus and sing it one and all. Join in the chorus, North Melbourne's on the ball. Good old North Melbourne, they're champions, you'll agree. North Melbourne is the team that plays to win for you and me. place to win for you and me. So join in the chorus and sing it one and all. Join in the chorus, North Melbourne's on the ball. Good old North Melbourne, they're champions, you'll agree. North Melbourne is the team that plays to win for you and me. So join in the chorus and sing it one and all. Join in the chorus, North Melbourne's on the ball. Good old North Melbourne, they're champions, you'll agree. North Melbourne is the team that plays to win for you and me.
Happy